Hello, guys and shipmate. I'm Chief Engineer Jose Abogan. We have a next video. Today is the consolidated Marpol 7378, Annex sets 1 to 6. International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ship 7378, Marpol Video 2, Annex 1, Prevention of Pollution by Oil, effective October 2, 1983. After viewing this video, you will be able to explain the basics, principles of environmental protection, discuss and categorize oil pollutants and the sources of oil pollution, state the procedure and process in oil pollution prevention, explain the different equipment of oil prevention, state the roles and requirements in oil disposal. You'll be able to explain the importance of socket and drills for oil prevention, and you will be able to demonstrate the use of the oil record book. Principles of environmental protection. Minimizing the generation of oil-water mixtures, separating oil from water where mixtures occur, carrying oil spaces protected from direct impact by stranding or collision, instituting spatial areas and prohibited coastal zones, setting limits and quantities which may be discharged into the sea, setting effluent standards. Control and implementation of requirements takes different forms, such as surveys and certifications from the plug state control, boarding and inspection from the port state control, airborne surveillance from the coastal state control, oil record book, port and states and plug state control evidence in court proceedings, records of oil content produced by oil, discharge monitoring and control system. It will be done by port and plug state control. Principles of preventing oil pollutions from oil tankers. Requirements with respect to the construction of oil tankers. Requirements with respect to the equipment of oil tankers. Cargo operations. Required documentations. Requirements with respect to the construction of oil tankers. Provisions of segregated ballast tanks in protective locations. Limitations of tank size. Subdivision stability criteria. Provisions of slot tanks. Pumping and piping arrangements. Provisions of oil discharge and control system. Provisions of oil-water interface detectors, arrangement of tanks, washing, and slabs of features of Marpol 7378. The international conventions for the preservation and of pollution from ships, Marpol, was adopted on 2nd November 1973 at IMO and covered pollution by oil, chemicals, and harmful substances in package form, sewage, and garbage. The Protocol of 1978 relating to the 1973 International Convention from the Prevention of Pollution from Ships, 1978 Marpol Protocol was adopted at the Conference on Tanker Safety and Pollution Prevention in February 1978, held in response to a large number of tanker accidents in 1976 to 1977. The convention includes regulation aimed at preventing and minimizing pollution from ships, both accidental pollution and that from routine operations, and carefully includes 6 technical annexes. Annex 1, regulations for the prevention of pollution by oil. Annex 2, regulations for the control of pollutions by noxious substance in bulk. Annex 3, prevention of pollution by the harmful substance carried by sea in package form. Annex 4, prevention of pollution by sewage from ships. Annex 5, prevention of pollutant of garbage from ships. Annex 6, prevention of air pollution from ships. This is the requirements for the constructions of ships. The convention consists of 20 articles, 2 protocols, 6 technical annexes. The articles regulate the relationship between states and parent ships, such as the extent to which a fourth state may interfere with the parent ships and the cooperation between states when investigating an alleged violation. Some of the definitions of this convention. Regulation means the regulation contained the annexes to the convention. Harmful substances is any substance which introduced into the sea is liable to create hazards to human health, harm living resources and marine life, damage amenities, or interfere with other legitimate uses of the sea, and includes any substance subject to control by the convention. Discharge. In relation to harmful substance or affluents containing such substance means any release whosoever caused from a ship, includes any escape, disposal, spilling, leaking, pumping, and emitting or emptying. Discharge does not include dumping within the meaning of the Convention on the Prevention of Marine Pollution by dumping of waste and other matters done at London. Ship means a vessel of any type whatsoever operating in the marine environment and include hydrofoil boats, air ocean vessel, submersibles, floating crafts, or fixed and floating platforms. Incident means an event involving the actual or probable discharge into the sea of harmful substance or effluents containing such substance. Organization means the International Maritime Organizations or IMO. Spatial area means a sea area for recognized technical reasons in relation to its oceanographic and ecological condition to the particular character of its traffic. The adoption of special mandatory methods for the prevention of sea pollution by oil is required. Special areas shall include those listed in Regulation 10 of this annex. Oil pollutants. Over 10 million tons of oil pollutants enter the marine environment each year as a result of accidental spillage and disposal of oil waste. Most oil pollution problems originate from minor spillage, which results from routine operations. Common sources of oil pollution, most commonly associated with ship pollution, are oil spills. While less frequent than the pollution than occurs from daily operations, oil spills have devastating effects. While being toxic to marine life, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, the components of crude oil, are very difficult to clean up and last for years in sediment and marine environment. Estimated contribution of pollutants from land-based discharge, 44%, atmospheric inputs, 33%, maritime transport, 12%, from dumping, 10%, from oil exploration and production, 1%. What happens when oil spills? There are a number of processes that can occur when oil spills depending on the water source and the type and amount of spilled oil. Oil can settle to the bottom of the water, while the density of oil ranges from 0.85 to 1.04 grams per square cubic centimeter. Most oil densities fall into the 0.9 to 0.98 grams per cubic centimeter range. Ocean water has a density between 1.02 and 1.03 grams per cubic centimeter, depending on the salt concentration. River water has a density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter. This means that a heavy oil with a density of 1.01 gram per cubic centimeter would float in ocean water but sink in a river. What kind of damage does oil pollution cause? Oil pollution can damage ecosystem, including plants and animals, and contaminate water for drinking and other purposes. Will cause plants that grow in or near the water can be harmed by oil pollutant. There are some areas that are more sensitive to oil pollution than others. Coral reef, mangroves, and marshes are more sensitive than sandy beaches and seagrass beds. Currents and winds can carry the oil fire from spill locations, causing damage to the vegetation. Measures from preventing oil pollution: segregated ballast tank, reduce the need for washing and therefore reduce oily water mixtures, but only if there are adequate capacity. Clean ballast tank. The use of clean ballast tank is a measure aimed at reducing the generation of oil water mixtures. Crude oil washing. In order to ensure that crude oil washing in fact effectively protecting the marine environment against pollution, the design, operation, and control of COW system are subject to IMO specifications, and only crude oil tankers in which the COW system and operations are surveyed and found to be in accordance with those specifications will be issued with the IOPT certificate. Measures for preventing oil pollution: advantages: reduction in pollution potential, increased cargo outturn, less dead freight, less time required in scalzo and tank cleaning, less time needed to prepare a tank for repairs in dry dock, and less corrosion because of less water washing. Disadvantage: increased workload, prolonged discharge time, cost of crude oil washing equipment, increased safety risk in port. Slab tanks. Annex 1 requires at least one slab tank for ships of less than 7,000 tons dead weight and at least two slab tanks for larger ships. All discharging monitoring and control equipment, especially for alarm system. A control system for the overboard valve that is able to stop the discharge when the permissible limit is reached. On large oil tankers from 20,000 tons deadweight and upwards, it should also be possible to drain the pump and lines if necessary by connection to a stripping device. A special small diameter line should be provided to discharge this draining to the shore. Shore reception facilities. Most ports that have reception facilities require advance notification for the disposal of oily waste, disposal to appointed facility only, full and correct information on the nature of the oily waste. Force majeure. Regulation 11 of Annex 1. Attention should be drawn to sub-paragraph B of this regulation, which requires that all reasonable precautions should be taken to prevent or minimize a discharge that has been discovered. Required documentation, IOPP certificate with supplement Form B, Oil Record Book, Part 2, Operation Manual for the oil discharge monitoring and control equipment, crude oil washing operations and equipment manual, segregated bulk tank, information unloading, cargo distribution, and damage criteria. Oil prevention equipment. Regulation 14.6 stipulates that the effluents from oil filtering equipment should not exceed 15 parts per million. The bilge alarm shall activate to indicate when this level cannot be maintained. Every ship of 400 gross tons and above, but less than 10,000 gross tons, shall be fitted with oil filtering equipment, and any such ship which carries ballast water in its bunker fuel tank. This is an example of an oily water separator with alarms. These are the spatial areas. Spatial areas from Northwest European waters, Mediterranean Sea area, Baltic Sea area, Black Sea area, Red Sea area, Gulf area, Gulf of Aden area, Antarctic area, wider Caribbean region. Oil verification of implementation flag state control. They must conduct survey and certification. Port state control. They board and inspect the ships. Coastal state control. Airborne surveillance. Oil record book. Records. Oil discharge monitoring and control system. Shipboard Operation Emergency Plans or SOPEP. This was implemented by IMO Resolution MEPC 54, close on open parenthesis 32, adopted in 1992, called Guidelines for the Development of the Shipboard Oil Pollution Emergency Plans. Marpol 7378, Article 8, and Protocol 1 require that nearest coastal state should be notified of actual or probable discharges of oil into the sea. What is regarded as an oil spill? Any oil spill, regardless of size, discharge of oil as a result of damage, intentional discharge for the purpose of securing the safety of ship and crew, operational discharge, discharge harmful substance and package form, probable discharge aground by collision, by ship explosion, serious breakdown of equipment, which is a danger for the safety navigation of the sea. Report 2, according to IMO Regulation A.648, open and close parenthesis 16, guidelines for reporting incidents involving dangerous goods, harmful substance, and oil marine pollutants from the nearest coastal state, port authority, and ship's interest. Types of oil spill: operational oil spills, bunkering transfer pipelines leakages, bunkering transfer tank overflow, and spills resulting from casualties like grounding, fire and explosion, collision, and so forth. The federal government is required to direct all public and private response efforts for certain types of spill events. Area committees composed of federal, state, and local government officials must develop detailed location-specific area contingency plans. Response to result of casualty. ascertain safety of crew and ship, make initial report, try to minimize outflow of oil, line up IOPP team, use checklists as guidelines to respond. Documentation operations involving oil and oil mixture must be recorded in the oil record book. It is important that the format of the book be uniform for all ships, regardless of flag, and that an international language be used. Authorities may take copies of entries, and if so requested, the master is required to state a copy of the true copy. Oil record book must be retained on board for 3 years after the last date of entry. Sampling. Be present during sampling. Check sample bottles must be cleaned and sealed. Retain one sample for each location. Record keeping. Record all activities of on crew and outside personnel. Make photos or make videos. Training and drills. Awareness training. Training of contingency plan. Regular drills followed by evaluation. Plan drills, which also called combat mission training, is involved. Maintain oil spill response equipment. IOPP certificate. Compliance with Annex 1's construction and equipment requirements is shown by the International Oil Pollution Prevention Certificate with supplement. This is the end of Marpol Annex 1. My next video will be Marpol Video 3, Marpol Annex 2, my mates and guys, please click subscribe the button so that you will be informed on my next videos. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. This is Chief Engineer Jose Garcia Abogan, PhD. Please like and subscribe to my channel to view my next videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.